Happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. I don't know if this is going to go up the day of Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving. I'm not really sure. You know, the holidays get a little hectic. Maybe they get hectic in your life too. So things are going to be a little off, but as my yoga teacher always says, life is always in flux. Learn to just sort of breathe through it. That's been my week. All right, today is the first part of the brush video. So I really thought long and hard about how I was going to do this because I have, I haven't counted, but it's definitely hundreds of brushes. And I could literally do a podcast on this. I could do a series on this, like dedicating a video to just like one type of brush, one shape of brush. And for those of you who are really interested in brushes, that might be really interesting. But not everybody is. I think a lot of people, and this is just speaking from my perspective, and maybe I'm totally wrong, so let me know if I am. But I think that a lot of people just want to know what brush to buy, what type of brush to buy, and if a brush is worth it. So what I'm going to do today, this is just going to be face brushes, okay? The next video, I asked you on Instagram, everyone said break it up. So face video, and then the next video that there'll be another one that'll have eye video, eye brush videos. So I'm going to have today, I'm going to talk about the type of hairs, the different ones that you can get. This part of it will be repeated in the eye brush video. I'll just have it there. I'll, just basically copy and paste from this one. And if you want to fast forward through that part on the second one, by all means, but it'll be there for people who don't see this video. And then I'm going to talk about some different types of face brushes. I'm going to show you comparisons with different brands. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my recommendations about the best, let's say best bronzer brush, best powder brush. I'm going to give the top 3. And then I'm going to talk about pricing and all that good stuff. And then at the end, I'm going to say what I would get if I was me today buying brushes, if I was, quote, a brand new person to brushes, like had no idea about Fude and didn't understand what any of this was, all the way up to somebody who's a far above me brush aficionado, a real Fude like expert, which I am not. And so I'm going to try to keep this video as short as I can because, again, this is a very complicated topic and can take up a lot of time. And that's not really what I'm trying to do here. If you want something truly comprehensive, like a series, I can do that. But for today, I really want to give you more of a, okay, here are things that you should consider. And then this is what would be great for this person, and for this person. Because I think that's really what everybody's looking for. Basically a buying guide. First of all, let's talk about synthetic/vegan brushes. Synthetic/vegan brushes aren't bad, good, or indifferent. In fact, I'm gonna grab a couple of them here. There's no such thing as, a bad brush, a good brush. This is very subjective. People have different ideas about what works for them. The only thing I would say about a synthetic or a vegan brush is that it's synthetic. This is a Angie Hot and Flashy brush. This is the A506, one of my favorites. Spoiler. We'll talk about this later. Great for under eye powder. Absolutely fantastic. I call this the bunny foot brush because that's what it kind of reminds me of. And lately, the synthetic and vegan world has grown. Different brands that used to only do natural hair brushes are getting into the synthetic market for various reasons that I'll not go into here. But they're really good. Some of them are excellent. By the way, I don't have makeup on my face today because I'm going to use the brushes so you can see how they work. If you're wondering, wow, Jan looks pale. There's nothing wrong with a vegan or synthetic brush. In fact, some of the newer ones are really excellent. I'm just going to do the synthetic part here, and the rest of the video will be natural hair because it's much more complicated in my opinion. If you're looking for a good synthetic set or brush, the Angie Hot and Flashy, these are BK Beauty, and I know BK Beauty just came out with another collab. I haven't tried those yet, but I would say that the Angie Hot and Flashy ones are some of my favorites. I have a ton of them. I like BK Beauty brushes in general, but the Angie Hot and Flashy ones, for me and my type of skin, more mature, more lines, that kind of thing, these are absolutely worth it. If you're looking for good synthetic brushes, look, I have 2 of these. If you're looking for good synthetic brushes, honestly, you can't go wrong with the Angie Hot and Flashy ones. Buy them. I'm going to be like really direct here. Buy this set. Buy whatever gift set they have right now, anything on sale. These are excellent. Some of the best brushes. I use them all the time. even compared to my natural hair brushes. Really, they're that good. For certain things, they're not as good, but overall, just off the top, if you're looking for a good brush set, you don't want to spend a ton of money, and especially if you're vegan like my sister, buy the Angie Hot and Flashy ones. Just, you'll be happy. Rose and Bend also has synthetics. This is the C41 brush. This is the brush that I often use for bronzer and blush sometimes. It is a fantastic brush. It's absolutely phenomenal. Her shapes of her brushes are really, really good. Again, she has a reasonable price point because these are synthetic vegan brushes. And I would strongly recommend picking up anything from Rose and Bend. Her entire line of brushes are excellent. I've used them all. I have all of them. Really excellent. Rare Beauty. Rare Beauty concealer brush, I love. Think it's fantastic, works really well for me. I use synthetic brushes for concealer. I do not use my natural hair brushes for cream and liquid. Some of them you can, or at least they say you can, but I don't. That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying I only use synthetic brushes for creams and liquids. That's just my choice. And then the last synthetic I would mention is Hourglass. Hourglass has great synthetic brushes. They are more expensive, actually quite expensive, which is interesting. Suku has also just moved to synthetic brushes. They're pricey. They're probably really good. I haven't tried them yet. I do have 2 of them, but I haven't tried them yet. They look like they're well made. Again, you know, there's been a great advancement in synthetic and vegan brushes. And the last brush I'll mention, which I do have, and I can't find it because I put together all my natural hair brushes, so now I can't find my synthetics, except for these, because these I use the most. La Mer has an excellent powder brush. It's a big fluffy powder brush. It's really, really good. It's expensive. I mean, for synthetics, $100, but it's a huge, I'll put up a picture. It's a huge powder brush, and I do use that one. The thing about that brush is it's very dense, so it's for people who like more powder on their face, more than versus less. I tend to like less, so I don't use it as much, but it's a great brush. And then last but not least, the Anissa Pinnacle brush. I have the foundation brush and I have the concealer brush. I use this probably 95% of the time when I'm putting on foundation. For me, this is the best foundation brush I've ever used. I love the shape. It's my favorite. It's easy to clean because it's synthetic. I have not tried the Wayne Goss one yet. The one thing I'm going to say really quickly is the Wayne Goss one is goat. It's Chikuhodo goat. And although, yes, you can use it for creams and liquids, like I said, I choose not to use my natural hair with liquids and creams because they're more, you know, first of all, they're more expensive. But second of all, over time, you will wear down the brush more because you have to wash it more. They're more delicate. They break, you know. So for me, this is great and I love it. So I just don't really look for another foundation brush. Just that, again, my personal opinion. Let's talk about the brands that we're going to do today. So I'm going to do Wayne Goss. I'm going to do Sonia G. I'm going to do Surratt. I'm going to do Suku. I'm going to do Hakuhodo and Chikuhodo and Koyudo. I am not going to go beyond that. There are more brushes out there. There are lots of more brushes out there. Lots and lots of more. Yeah, lots. There's so many different types of brushes and brands. That's where I'm going to stop it though, okay? Because, like again, I don't want this to be a 17-hour video. So, okay, let's talk about hairs. The softest ones I have are gray, are squirrel brushes. Let's start there. Softest ones I have are squirrel brushes. There are very different types of squirrel. There's blue and gray, which is usually considered the softest. There is red and Canadian. And there is Kazan. And there's also another kind that's, it'll come to me in a second. But what I want to say about the squirrel brushes in general is that they're all very soft. If you have very sensitive skin like I do, and prone to things like rosacea or reactive skin, you might want to go for a brush like that. They are more expensive in general, but they are very, very soft. And so they don't irritate your skin as much as maybe a more dense, quote, scratchy brush. Although none of my brushes are scratchy, but you get the idea. Okay, so a gray squirrel or blue squirrel, they are very soft bristles. They provide a sheer airbrushed kind of look, natural looking finish, very suitable for sensitive skin, especially very sensitive skin. And they won't over apply things. So this is a Surratt brush. This is the powder, I believe. And you can see this is a very big brush, but it's a very soft brush. Like this feels like, it's almost like silk over your fingertips. Like it's the softest thing you've ever felt. If you ever petted a chinchilla, it feels like that. So it's incredibly soft, just absolutely beautiful. These are usually, you know, crafted, all the brushes I have are crafted by hand. These are people who are, you know, who spend years putting their craft together about how to hand tie the hairs together. And depending on how the hairs are put into a ferrule and then put into this brush handle and all those things, depends on how expensive the brush is and how long the hairs are. The longer the hair, depending on the type of brush, the more expensive it can be. But what I would tell you is that if you're looking for something that has a very ethereal, light, airy, airbrush kind of look, you want to, and it's very soft. A gray squirrel, or here's a blue squirrel, which is this was the ox that was at Beautylish. I have the year of the rat in here too, because that's the year I was born. And here's a Chikuhodo one. So like, this was part of a set. Same kind of thing. You can see they're very similar brushes. The Canadian squirrel is incredibly rare. It's highly valued. Again, it has like a uniform body and it's really easy to control. It's very short-haired usually, so you don't have usually long hair with a Canadian squirrel. There's white and red varieties. It's really, again, a very soft brush, really beautiful. Pine squirrel is in eyeshadows. It's very soft, but it's a very thin bristle. And honestly, I don't think I have, no, I don't have it. Red squirrel is one of the rarest. Red squirrel is something you don't see very often. And like I said, I don't have very many. Here's a Koyudo one. Incredibly soft, very, very similar to blue, but more delicate in the touch. Again, you have to be very careful how you wash all of these brushes, like all of them. Okay, then we have Kazan squirrel. And it again is quite rare. It's brown squirrel. It's kind of known for its fine, like silky hair. This is the KZ brushes. These are by Chikuhodo, and I think you could still get, well, secondary markets. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. It's softer than gray. It has a unique wave to it that kind of has like an airy quality, so you can pick up more with these. So what I would say is like the gray and the blues are incredibly soft, as are the red squirrels. But these are soft. Yeah, they're just as soft, but there's like a bounce to these that picks up more product. So if you need something really soft on your skin, like you're reactive and your skin is very sensitive, and you want to pick up more product, the Kazans are a great choice. Now let's talk about the Silver Fox. I don't actually have a ton of these. I have 2 sets in the Silver Fox, and they are both Chikuhodos. They are the FO Series and the Zen Series. I'm pretty sure the Zen Series is gone, but again, they're secondary markets, and we'll talk about the sets later. This is an FO3, and this is a highlight brush in the Zen Series. This is kind of a angled brush. Again, we'll talk about brush shapes in a sec. But I wanted to show you Silver Fox, very soft, very much like a gray squirrel, but there's more elasticity in these. There's more resilience. Usually what you'll see is like a white base and then an ash brown or ash gray kind of top to it. You can see that has that same kind of look. I would not recommend, again, I don't really recommend any of these for cream products, but some people do use them, but you can damage them, so I wouldn't do it. I really like the Silver Fox. I think they're quite beautiful. I think they're, you know, like I said, as soft as the squirrels, and they do have more resilience. They feel like they can do. I feel like they can do more, right? I feel like they can deposit a little bit more than the softness of the gray and the blue squirrels, because they're so soft. They're really meant for a lighter application. But you know, in field, they're very similar. Okay, so let's, again, I'm going through these quickly, guys. If you have questions, put them down below, or if you really want a, you know, like I said, a series, let me know. Then is goat. Goat is the most often used. It's a common used bristle. And basically there's different levels. There's just goat. When you see that, you're not exactly sure what level it is, but generally it's the lower level, lowest level. There's Chikuhodo, I never get these names right, Chikuhodo, which is, it's great for a beginner because it's a more reasonable, like it's easier to get. It's durable, it's not as delicate, it's soft to work as a finishing brush, but it has enough strength to do like a blush and a highlight and eyeshadow, they're good brushes. They're like the workhorse of the brush world. They're really, really nice. Chikuhodo, which is what I have all Chikuhodo except for one brush. It's the highest quality in general. I'll explain in a minute. And each type is suited to like different purchases, like different budgets. So some are very expensive, some are more reasonable. The Wayne Goss ones are the new set. Those are Chikuhodo. The old Sonia G's, the Sky, and the Fundamentals, Chikuhodo. Lots of Chikuhodo out there, guys. I have buckets of Chikuhodo. I'll show you in a sec. But it also depends on like the length of the bristle, how it's bundled. All those things go into how the brush performs. And I would also say these pick up more product and they apply more heavily than the squirrels. And if you're gonna use liquids and creams, I would go with the goat and not the squirrels. Again, I don't do that, but if you're gonna, use the goats. And then the Chikuhodo, I have one brush, literally. One brush. This is a Sonia G set that came out, and they are long, luminous, and very fine. They're kind of like a lightness. There's a tip. They're just these are hard to find, and when you do find them, they're very expensive. And they're very soft. It might even be softer in some, depending on the Chikuhodo brush that you buy. It might even be softer than some of my squirrel brushes. I would say they're very rare. They sell out very quickly. I recently put a notice up about a Chikuhodo brush that was available on Beautylish. I think there was like 200 of them or something for like $3 something. It's the pink one. I'll put up a picture. That is Chikuhodo. The pink one is. That is very rare, and at that price, that's a pretty good price. Usually a brush, like a face brush, is more like around the $500 mark, so that was a good deal. Let me show you first really quickly, and then we'll go into the last group. These are all Chikuhodo, okay? So if I ever post something about buying more Chikuhodo brushes, please throw something at me because I do not need it anymore. All right. Last but not least is Kolinsky. I get a lot of questions about my Kolinsky brushes because they're kind of unique looking. Many of them are in this orange or red handles. These are Koyudos, the red ones. These are Kolinsky brushes. And then these are what are called the Hakuhodo Vermilion series. Vermilion just refers to the handles. They have different types of brushes with these handles. Some are Kolinsky, some are squirrel. There's all different kinds. And Kolinsky is very hard to find, very rare here in the US. Many of them kind of disappeared as of last year. And many of my friends said, buy them now, and I didn't because I'm an idiot. So now they're much harder to find, and you're really probably gonna have to go on the secondary market here in the United States. Overseas, you can get them. The thing about Kolinsky is it's pretty fine and pretty soft. It's not as soft as the squirrels, but it's one of those things that is incredibly resilient. It picks up everything. It feels nice on the skin. It works with cream and liquids. Again, I try not to do that with my natural hair brushes, but it does work. If you have a product, an eyeshadow, for example, that's not working, like you can't get the pigment off like you can't pick up any pigment, and your Kolinsky brush doesn't work, there's no hope for the eyeshadow. The Kolinsky brush, every single time, that is where, you know, I get comments from all of you where you're like, what brush was that? That's Kolinsky, every time. They're absolutely amazing. And honestly, I can't say enough about how good they really are. Okay, so now let's go through brush shapes, which is a little different. Again, I'm trying to keep this, I'm trying, guys. It's so hard, there's so many brushes. All right, let's talk about powder brushes. So what is a powder brush? Well, again, that's never as easy as it sounds because there's different shapes of powder brushes, of course. But you get powder brushes that are like this, that are very large and sort of this, I call it like a mushroom shape. I have a lot of this shape. This is an FO series. This is a Chikuhodo. Again, this is a silver fox. Very, very soft. And picks up more product. This right here is a blue squirrel. And it's incredibly soft. And I really like this brush. This is a Beautylish. They do, I have the Year of the Rat, which is is the year I was born, it was a rat year. And I just really like the oxes on this one, so I got this one. But you can see the shape is a little bit different. Similar shape, but smaller in the way that the ferrule is sort of pinched a little bit different, sort of splays out like this, where this one is a little bit longer and rounder. There's also, you know, ones that are even longer than that and a little bit more straight. This is, again, a silver fox. This is a Chikuhodo Zen Series. Very, very soft. I also have gray squirrel, which, again, this is a Surratt brush. And you can see that you have a very similar shape, a little bit shorter, rounded. I would say it's similar to the blue squirrel. Now, what you want to consider when you're looking at these types of brushes and you're trying to figure out what you want as a powder brush, right? I have the Little Mare brush, which is a huge brush and is a little bit more dense. But do you want something soft? Do you want something that's going to deposit a lot of pigment, a lot of product? So what I would say about the powder brushes is that it really does depend on what you're looking for. Like anything, you know, this is with makeup and with brushes. So the ones that I would recommend for a powder brush for someone like me that is looking for something that is going to deposit less product, more ethereal, a lighter look, and I will show you what that looks like. I'm going to put some powder down on my face. I would personally go with a number of different brushes. The first one, and I think my favorite brush, one of the first brushes I bought, was the, I'm trying to find it now. Where did it go? Here we go. This is the Chikuhodo Z Series. The Z Series they are gray squirrel. They still exist, so you can buy them in eyeshadow brushes and face brushes. And this is a really beautiful powder brush. It's very, very soft, and it's expensive. We're talking in the 100-something range, and which is actually pretty decent for a powder brush, believe it or not. And very soft. It feels like I said, chinchilla. If you've ever pet a chinchilla, that's what it feels like on the skin. And for people who have very reactive, sensitive skin, I think it's a great choice. And this is something that does exist. The KZ series from Chikuhodo is another great choice. The problem is I think these are harder to find. The Z series still exists on, you know, you can go to chikuhodo.com. There's a USA site. There's actually a store in Southern California. And you can buy this brush and lots of other, you know, I think Beautylish has them as well. The KZs, though, they're harder to get and they are a little bit more expensive. But again, this is a KZ01 considered a powder brush. I would say these are 1 and 2 for me. The third one that I think is fantastic is the, pull it out right here, the Zen series, which again, Chikuhodo, really hard to find. Silver fox, and this is a long powder brush. And because the hairs are longer on this, you kind of can like sweep and get a even more so than these because they're shorter, a little bit more dense, more ethereal application. Really beautiful. But because this one's really hard to get, and I think discontinued, I would say the FO9 by Chikuhodo would be the third one I would recommend because you could get this. It's silver fox. Again, not inexpensive, but we're talking in the hundreds range for a powder brush. And those would be my favorites. And there's the shape, so you can see them up close for the powder brushes. Now this is for an all-over powder. We're not talking about blush or highlighter just yet. All right, now we're going to talk about blush brushes. And like powder brushes, blush brushes come in all different shapes and sizes. There are popular sizes, there are popular shapes. I'm going to show you a couple today so that you can get an idea of what you might like. So first we're going to talk about the Silver Fox. This again is the FO Series by Chikuhodo. That's a pretty common shape. It's kind of like a mushroom. It's like the powder brush, but a little bit smaller. We have the Z Series, which I showed you in the powder brush as well, and that's the cheek brush. It's a little bit longer, a little bit more elongated. Again, this is a gray squirrel. This is a silver fox. They do feel very, very similar. Silver fox does pick up a little more than my gray squirrel, so depending on what you're looking for there, you know, softness, application, how much powder do you want to go down, all that good stuff. Then we have the KZ series, which again, doesn't really exist. I love this, the KZ series, I really do. And I'm really disappointed that they got rid of so many. But anyway, this is the KZ FO cheek brush. You can see this is a smaller cheek brush. They have bigger ones too, but the bigger ones are more pointed and kind of more of a highlighter slash cheek. There is a Hakuhodo. This is a G5518. Again, this is Kazan Squirrel as well. And you can see how pointed that one is. For very specific, very dense application. Then we have the goat. And now the goats, like I said, deposit more. They are more of the workhorse, if you will, of brushes. And there's all kinds of different shapes, I have to tell you, for this area. But I'm gonna pull out a bunch of different ones again so you can see, and then I'll tell you what my favorites are, because this one gets like, not tricky, but just, you know, there's so many favorites that I don't want to leave anything out, and I want to give you lots of options. These are all the goats. This is Wayne Goss. This was the set that came out quite some time ago. I think it was called this might have even been called the Fundamental set. It's a 01 brush, and you can see it has that sort of classic rounded blush shape, but you have a point to it so you can keep it, you know, a little bit more specific, and then push a little harder on your face to get more pigment, to like basically pull it out a little bit more as well. Now the new one, this is an F2. There's many different ones that he's just come out with. There's also the F3. We'll talk about both. The F2 has that more like specific rounded brush shape. This is more of a, I want to get specifically here or on the face or on the nose. Whereas the F3, you're really looking at a very long-haired goat Chikuhodo brush. And so you're gonna get a very light application. Also, if you hold it at the end and kind of just go like this, you get a very ethereal look. And that's gonna give you more of that look of like the gray squirrel or the blue squirrel without the expense, because let's face it, those brushes are getting astronomical. Then there's the Sky sets by Sonia G. Again, these are in existence. They are almost always sold out, but she did restock rather recently. This is soft cheek and this is classic cheek. I think you can, just from the names, soft, classic. This is a little bit more dense. It's undyed. It's gonna give you a little bit more application. This is gonna be a little bit softer, and it's gonna diffuse it a little more. You can tell just by the shape, right? This is a denser brush. It's gonna deposit more product. This is more fluffy, longer hairs. It's splayed out. You wanna sort of, you know, blush it out, if you will. You don't want a specific piece, like just, you know, right here on the cheek. And then this one is the Sonia G. This is the, oh my goodness, I forgot the name. I'll put the name of the collection down below. But I do like the handles. I like the gradation of the handles. But this brush is really interesting. This is a cheek brush, and it is a denser brush. It's still very soft, but this is great for like very specific placement of blush. I find it similar to the Wayne Goss F2. Again, it's a little bit more splayed out, but it's also a little bit shorter. You can kind of see that. Not, you know, tremendous, but it gives you an idea. And then I do have red hair. This is Red Squirrel, and this is a Koyudo brush. This is a very rare brush, very soft. You're looking for a little bit more depositing of product, but you don't want the goat feel. You want a softer, more ethereal feel. That's this, but very expensive and very hard to find. And then my Chikuhodo brush from Sonia G. I love this brush. It deposits beautifully. It picks up tremendous amounts of pigment, but it's also really soft. The thing is though, I only have one of these and it was expensive, so I like kind of baby it, which is silly because I should use it more. But I admit most of the time I don't use it because I have one. Now I have two because I ordered that pink one, so we'll see how that goes. Now, if I were to tell you what my top three are, for some reason or another, and I think this is, I'll tell you what I think the reasoning is, but the Chikuhodo Silver Fox, the FO3, is the one that I reach for most of the time. And I think it's because I like to have a light application of blush, but sometimes the blushes that I buy are very light in pigment to begin with. And when I use the squirrel brushes, like nothing shows up. It just looks like it's non-existent because it's so soft. So I think I reached for the Silver Fox because it's incredibly soft, but it deposits a little bit more. I think that's what happens. So that's the one I go for more than anything else. And you can get the FO brushes. The second one, again, is the cheek brush from Chikuhodo the Z Series. Again, I love the Z Series. Anybody who has really sensitive skin, like very sensitive skin, Z Series is an excellent choice. And yeah, I reach for this one quite a bit. Because it's soft and it's easy to use, and it's just, you know, it's one of those things that I find it easy to use, which kind of makes sense. And then the third one is the soft cheek brush by Sonia G. Again, Chikuhodo Goat, because I like a softer, more diffused look, and that's what this does. I generally don't use brushes like these, these three. This one's also diffused, but I don't usually use these types because I don't really like a very pigmented blush look. Now, if I have problems picking up the pigment, and there's been some blushes that have been like that I really can't even get the pigment out, yeah, I will reach for a denser brush like these for the goats and use them. But you know, again, I'm usually going the opposite way. I usually have a blush that's too deep, and I need something like this to diffuse it out. Again, my top three choices would be the FO3, the Z Series, this is just called the Cheek, and the Soft Cheek by Sonia G. They do have a similar shape, I guess. I mean, let's face it, it's a cheek brush, but this one's more of a mushroom, this one's a rounder, and this is just sort of a flat top with splayed. What I would say about these shapes, this one's going to give you, even though it's incredibly soft, it's still going to have more of a point. This one's going to be a more rounded look, so you're going to get more of that like sort of soft but still deeper right at the top, because it does, you know, go on the sides, it does go down. This one's more of a flat top. So what you're going to get with this is more, quote, even coverage. This one, again, is going to give you a little bit more for the point, and this is going to give you the most pigment at the point. And the way you want to think about it is what's touching your face. So if you're going in lightly, the point, if a brush has a point to it and you're going lightly, the sides of the brush aren't touching your face. So you're just getting that point of the brush. If you're having something like this that has more of a flat top, then you're getting more of the brush. I would argue that for most of you out there, okay, and I'm not saying everybody, and we'll go into details about like who I think should get what later, but I think most of you, the Soft Cheek by Sonia G is like really the best choice. And the reason I say that is it's a reasonable price point for a blush brush of this quality. I'm going to use Suku. Suku blushes are some of my favorites. And it deposits, you know, a great amount of a product without being too much. So if you're somebody like me who wants just a very light application, again, hold the brush very lightly and, you know, make sure that you're not depositing too much. But something like this, the goat hairs, will allow you to do this and have a very light application, but then you can go back in later and add more, because a goat will allow that very easily. You can pick up a little bit more product and it's going to be very soft still. The squirrel brushes, that's going to be tougher because again, it's not really meant for that. The squirrel brushes are meant to give you a lighter, more ethereal look. All right, highlights. Let's go to highlights. So, you know, there's all different types of highlight brushes, like everything else. And some of this is a Kolinsky brush, and you can see how the point comes here. You can be very specific with this. And this is a great highlight brush. Like, I really like this Kolinsky. But I will tell you, a Kolinsky is going to pick up a lot of products. So I generally don't reach for this unless I'm looking for something like a brush that I'm trying to dip in a highlight because the highlight just doesn't work. I can't get anything out. Then I'll use that brush. But generally, that's not how I roll. I'm looking for something that's going to give me less product, which again, I know to a lot of people sounds odd, but that's who I am. So I like, this is a Surratt brush. This is the Gray Squirrel. And you can see it's a angled brush, which is great for highlight in my opinion. I really like that because I can just go really easily like this. It sits against your face and it's just the perfect angle for a highlighting brush. It's just easy to use. Again, I like ease of use, you know? I want something that I can pick up, put it on my face and be like, okay, I'm done, run out the door. That's mostly my life. And then the Kazan Squirrel, this is the KZ again. And you can see this has more of that candlelight shape a little bit. Doesn't come to a direct point at the top, but more of that, you know, it's got that kind of shape. And this is gonna give you more pointed highlight here and then diffuse here. And the more you push on the brush, the more product will be deposited. This one, because it's angled like this, you're gonna get the same amount through the whole sweep. So the shape is gonna, you know, that's gonna change how you decide to pick up a brush. I like the angles. Angles work for me. This is a Hakuhodo vermilion brush. This is a blue squirrel, and you can see that it has more of that candlelight shape, but very narrow. So if you want just a very, very specific application of a highlight and something that's gonna put down not a lot of product because it's blue squirrel, this is a great choice. Now let's go to the goat for a second. You could use the Wayne Goss, the new one, the F5, which is going to leave, you know, like a very light, because again, long hairs, wispy kind of look, which I actually really like. And I think that's going to work really well for highlight as well as blush. Or you could go with something that's going to deposit a little bit more product because it's going to be a little bit more dense. So Wayne does have his F1. You can see that's angled like that a little bit. It's got like this, yeah, it's like a dome almost. Like it's got, you know, sort of that space to it. So you could definitely do this with that and get this kind of look a little bit more even. There's also the Sonia G that has this type of angle. I think that works extremely well for, again, this doesn't exist anymore. This was the Mount Fiji? I think it's Mount Fiji. I'll put it down below. And then Wayne Goss also has this F3, which is the candlelight shape again. You can use this for blush. You could also use it for highlight, but you can see you're going to have a much more like dense, specific application with a brush like this because of the fact that it's got this candlelight point that's going to hit your face first. And the only way to get these other sides of your brush on your face is to either press harder or just swirl. Either way, depending on how you want to use your application, you know, that works. Wayne Goss also has the fundamental, I think they were called fundamentals, the candlelight, very wispy kind of look. And this is going to give you a similar, not the same, similar to this. Sonia G has some great highlighting brushes as well. She has the, this is one of my favorite brushes, the Indochig Pro. Again, candlelight, you can use this for blush, you can use this for highlighting, you can use this practically for anything. It's a fantastic brush. This is sort of like a workhorse, you know, kind of use it for everything brush. One of my favorites. There is the Sonia G Designer Pro, which again has this really specific, see how that's like very dense and to the point. If you're doing something highlighting, which is great. Again, I think these are the Fusion brushes. Fusion brushes? Anyway, I'll have the name down below. Why is my brain not working? Great highlighting brush by Sonia G. Again, these are the Goat Side Kohos. Really, really good. And this is one of my favorites. And then I have Wayne Goss, and I haven't talked about this collection yet. This is a combination. This is a blue squirrel goat combination. He has 3 brushes. One that's a big brush, one that's this size, and one that's like a highlighting eye brush. And this one is great. It's very soft because of the squirrel brushes in here, but the goat actually picks up more product. So if you're looking for something that's incredibly soft, but you still want to pick up a little bit more, this is the one to go. I think these are long gone, unfortunately, so I'm not going to talk about these too much, but that set of brushes by Wayne has great brushes. I love his brushes. But so let's talk about my favorites, okay? My favorite right now for highlighting is this new one by Wayne Goss. This is an F5. Now, he really talked about it for blush, but I like it for highlighter. I'm not a fan brush person. I do have fan brushes, including this one from Wayne Goss. This is a huge sucker. But I'm not really into the fan brush thing. It's just not my style. But this I love for highlight because it's just so light and ethereal. It sets down just a gorgeous look. I love that. My second one is the Surratt brush. Again, this is the natural hair gray squirrel. And I just love for like an even application of highlight, you just go like this. Like I said, super easy to do. And the same with the Sonia G. You know, this is a little smaller, so you get a more specific look with this one. You're gonna make it a little lighter. So I would say, like, if you're going down your nose, I'd go with this one instead of this one because this one's a little bit thicker. But those are my 3 favorites, and I'm gonna use the Wayne Goss one today because that's my #1 favorite at the moment. And I think that's really interesting because, you know, this is of course squirrel, and these two are, you know, goat, which deposits more product. But because of the shape of this brush, it doesn't actually deposit as much highlighter as you think. So I'm going to show you what I mean right now. Now, the way I'm using it is just like on the side here, very, very lightly. And I just use it almost like a fan brush. There's different ways to use the brush, and I have done that on channel. I've like showed you like using it like more like a circular motion, but this is the way I like to use it for highlight. I just think it gives the most gorgeous application anywhere you want to put highlight. Love this brush. Good job, Wayne. Not that he needs to hear it from me, but yeah, just a fantastic brush. Okay. Last but not least, we're going to talk about bronzer brushes today. And like I said, I know there's more face brushes out there, guys. I know. There are fan brushes. There's different types of blush brushes. There's so many different types of brushes. It just, you know, there's the sheer buffer brush, which, by the way, is the caveat to what I said about not using cream and liquids. I do use cream and liquids with this one, but this specifically was made for creams and liquids. This is a goat brush that Sonia G came out with, and it makes every cream and liquid, well, I don't use liquids, cream blush look better. And I use it for all my powder when I want to really like sheer something out, make it look seamless. This is a fantastic brush. This is the sheer buffer brush. It doesn't really fit into any other category. It is a buffer brush, but it's more than that. It's just it's a very unique brush. Let's put it that way. And I'm not going to go into the buffer brushes today. I'm not going to go into the foundation brushes today because, as I said, I use synthetic. I use this. But if we're going to do, like, if you want more brush videos, I'll do them in the future. But today I want to talk just briefly about bronzer brushes because, to be honest, there's only a couple of bronzer brushes I use. It's very, very limited. So one of them doesn't exist anymore. It's the Tom Ford brush. It's the Tom Ford bronzer brush, and I absolutely love this brush. I do have a backup of it. This is a Chikuhodo Goat, and this brush is like 15 years, maybe it's 20 years old. I don't even know. And some of the brushes have come out over time, and it's starting to slant a little this way because I think I have a tendency to do this with it. It's my favorite brush. It's phenomenally good. However, there is a dupe. The dupe is the Refer 22 brush. As you can see, it's almost identical. It's not exact, but it's close. The pinching, the ferrule on this one is smaller, so it kind of goes out more, but the shape is almost identical. I mean, it really is incredibly close. The hairs, in my opinion, are better on the Tom Ford, but you know, the hairs are over the years have gotten much harder to find and much harder to source, and frankly, in my opinion, not as good. So I always try to buy like the first generation of a brush set or older ones if I can. I try to buy ones that were made like a while ago because I think they're better made, like most things, unfortunately. But this Refer brush is really, really good. So if you love the Tom Ford brush, or you've seen the Tom Ford brush and really want it, there is this still shape in Tom Ford, but it's synthetic. I would go with the Refer 22. It's a great brush. It's absolutely worth picking up, and I do use it all the time. Sometimes when I go to reach for a brush, I can't tell when it's in the case, in the cup, which one's which. So that just tells you how really good this one is. The Refer is excellent. So I would pick up the Refer. It's not my #1 brush, I'm not gonna lie. My #1 brush is that Tom Ford, but you can't buy it unless you're getting it on the secondary market somewhere, because it just doesn't exist. But there are 2 other brushes that I would strongly recommend. They're very similar, and they're made by the same person. They are Sonia G. It is the Niji Pro and the Jumbo Bronzer. It literally has the name Jumbo Bronzer. The Niji, if you can see, is a little bit shorter. It's got shorter bristles. I think it's a little bit more densely packed. And, you know, the way that I would say that these differ is if I'm using powder products, I tend to use this as a bronzer and this almost as like a contour. So when I'm using a bronzer, I sometimes will use this one to try to be more specific, because this is a denser, like thinner brush. This is gonna be like fluffing it out a little bit more. So if I were to suggest to you which ones would be my favorite, the top 3, I would say the Jumbo Bronzer by Sonia G comes first. Again, this is a goat brush. I would say the Refer 22, which is also a goat brush, would go second. And then the third would be the Niji Pro by Sonia G. Again, goat. These are all goat brushes. I don't have a bronzer brush, or at least one that I use, that isn't anything but goat. Like I said, there are fan brushes, there are other types of brushes that you could use as a bronzer brush, but I don't choose to. Like, for example, this is a Silver Fox Zen Series brush. This is a powder cheek brush. You could use this as bronzer. I mean, frankly, you could use anything you wanted as bronzer, depending on how you want it to look. But this is a really beautiful, like, you could just kind of go on the outsides of your face with this. It just feels nice. But it's not the shape that I like. It's not the shape that I would personally recommend. I like these types of shapes for a bronzer. Again, though, it's personal. Like, everybody has a different idea of, everyone has a different idea of what type of, product works best. As well, pick my favorite bronzer of all time. And we're gonna use my number one. Again, this is the Jumbo Bronzer. I picked up the Travel Bronzer, Jumbo Bronzer from Sonia G. Think it's excellent. Love that brush for travel. And as you can see, I'm kind of haphazard with my bronzer. I just kind of, like warm up my face with it because I am so pale. But I can do that with the Terra Bronzer from Tom Ford because it's kind of like a coolish bronzer. It's not super deep. If I tried to do this with, I don't know, like the Goer bronzer or something, I might look a little ridiculous. Okay, so last but not least, we are gonna do powder. I'm gonna use the Eclat Dew. This is Gray Squirrel, this is Silver Fox, and this is Kazan Squirrel. So again, these are all squirrel brushes. They're all very soft brushes. I prefer that because I like a lighter look, if you will. I like something that's gonna be, not as a heavy application. So, but Kazan does give you a little bit more. So I'll show you, I tend to pounce like this. Can you see how the brush just sort of smushes against my skin though, like really quickly? Because it is soft, because this is a squirrel brush. If this was a goat brush, you wouldn't see that like smush. I know, very technical term, smush, but you get my point. Like, if it was a denser, like more, a thicker brush, if you will, like a, more resilient brush, it wouldn't like smush like this. Don't do that to your brush, by the way. But see how it does that? If you have like a goat brush, see how there's more resistance here. When you do it with a very soft brush, that's the difference. So when this pushes up against your face, you're just getting that, it's very much, it's just kind of like, ooh, it just sort of skims over your face. Whereas goat is gonna have a little bit more like tension. So those are my top 3 for each type of brush. Like I said, I didn't go into every single brush. I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to keep this video under an hour. But I'll tell you this. If I were to say to you today, like, okay, you're gonna buy brushes, you're gonna buy face brushes. I gave you my top 3 for the different brush shapes that where I went through today. I have to tell you, if I were to recommend a face set to any of you, I would say if you're somebody who does makeup on a regular basis, you get ready in the morning, you put on makeup, but you're not somebody who is looking to collect, or you're very like particular about the different types of brushes that you're using, or you have super sensitive skin, for example, like really reactive skin, eczema, rosacea, something like that, I would say pick up the new Wayne Goss face set. Guys, they're excellent brushes. He did a phenomenally good job with the brushes that he came up with this set. This is an F1. This is the brush that I used today. There's a lot of eye brushes in here that we'll talk about in the other video. This one I didn't use today. This is an F3. Really just beautiful. And he also has a foundation brush, which I have ordered, but I don't have yet. I really can't recommend his brushes any stronger. They're really excellent. Reasonable price point for what they are. The hairs are Chikuhodo goat, so that means they're a better quality. Really just a beautiful collection of different shapes, and I hope he comes out with more. The Sonia G new collection that's launched, I have not tried them, so I cannot comment. But I would say if you're looking for something from Sonia G, the Sky set, the Sky blue set from Sonia G, she has again, they're same Chikuhodo goats hairs, and the blue Sky sets are my favorite. I do like the fundamentals, the reds, but for some reason the Sky sets I feel work better for my skin and for me. The Jumbo Bronzer is part of that blue Sky set. So I would personally recommend the Sonia G blue Sky sets or the new Wayne Goss sets, the face sets, or any of the individual face brushes that have just come out. Same with the Sonia G blue sets. Those would be my top for the majority of folks. If you're somebody who has very sensitive skin and rosacea, eczema, any of those things, and you really are concerned about the softness of the brush, not that the goat's not soft, it is, but if you're really sensitive, I would stick with squirrel brushes. I would go with the Z series from Chikuhodo or the FO series, which is Silver Fox, again, from Chikuhodo. That's how I would go. They're incredibly soft. You're not gonna irritate your skin. You're gonna get it's gonna be a lighter look though. You're not gonna get as much product. It's just, that's how it works. I think they're excellent. And yes, they are expensive, but they're not Kolinsky expensive. They're not Kazan Squirrel expensive. They're expensive, okay? But again, it depends on what you need and what you're looking for. If you're somebody, and I mentioned this really early in the beginning, that really doesn't, have any concerns about that, doesn't necessarily want natural hair brushes, and is just using makeup like it's just fun, and forgive me for saying this, but you're just young and your skin is perfect, or you're old and your skin is perfect. Either way, if you're any age and your skin is perfect, buy synthetic brushes. Go get the Angie Hot and Flashy ones. Go get the Rose and Ben ones. Get the Hourglass ones, although the Hourglass ones are actually kind of expensive. But my point is, those are great brushes. They work fine. They're really, really good. Really, really good. The Angie Hot and Flashy ones and her new set that I haven't tried, the new BK Beauty ones, but she has great brushes, BK Beauty does. And Rose Ben has great ones. Rare Beauty has really nice ones. Those are, for everyday use. They're easier to clean. They're cheaper. They last longer. They're more durable. All those things. So, it really does depend on where on your brush journey you are. If you're somebody who's at a point where you have as many brushes as I do, and you're looking for like that one very special thing, I would say look for Fude Beauty has a site. I'll make sure all these links are below, of course, but they have sets that come out with like Kolinsky sets every once in a while, or very rare brushes like the one that I linked the other day with the pink handle, which is the Chikuhodo brushes. Those are the types of things you save up for those. And they're not spur of the moment purchases. The brush I mentioned that I bought the other day, it's $350. The Kolinsky set that I really love by Koyudo that I want to buy, that's on Feud Beauty, I think there's like 6 left. It's $1,000 for like 5 brushes. So these are things that you save for. Like these are things, and some people would be like, well, I would never spend that. That's totally fair. So that's what I'm saying. Those are my recommendations though, for different, price points, for different needs, like makeup. Just because something's more expensive doesn't mean it's better. Just because something's inexpensive doesn't mean it's not great, and absolutely sufficient for what you need. I started with the Z series because my skin was so sensitive, especially because of the rosacea. Over time, I've had laser treatments. If you've watched my channel, I've mentioned it. My skin does feel better and is less red, less reactive, and I'll continue to do those things to try to keep it that way. So I'm not as sensitive as I was, and so I don't always need to use the Z series or the squirrel brushes. But I will tell you, when my skin is sensitive, I do reach for a softer brush because my skin will just, like anything on it, will just be like nails on a chalkboard. So, just putting all that out there. I know that was a lot to throw at you, and when I do the eye brushes, it's probably going to be even worse because there's more eye brushes. But this is a complicated, you know, there's a lot of time and research that went into this video and the next one. So hopefully you'll appreciate it. If you have any questions, like I said, put it down below. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really do appreciate it. If this is going up Thanksgiving or the day afterwards, sometime during Thanksgiving week, and you're somebody who celebrates, thank you so much. I want you to know that I'm thankful for all of you, even for those of you who aren't celebrating Thanksgiving outside of the U.S., more than likely. You know, I'm incredibly thankful for all of you, for your watching, for subscribing, for using my links. I honestly am not only just grateful, but just so surprised that anybody wants to watch as much as you all do and engage as much as you do. I really do appreciate it. So thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you in another video really soon. Bye.